Hey everyone, welcome to csforeveryone.com. In this video, we are in fact not going to be doing loops. We're going to be doing something called functions. Functions are an extremely important part of programming. You have to know how they work. And the reason I want to do these before loops is because functions allow you to break code up into logical sections. So let's just go ahead and give you an example of a function real quick. A function is essentially a piece of code that you can call whenever you want, and it will run what is within your function. So to create a function, go ahead and type function, who would have thought, and then you want to name your function. I'm going to name mine add two numbers. So now we have a function called add two numbers. And functions have something called parameters or inputs. So you can create a function that can take inputs and then work with those inputs. So I'm going to make two inputs on this function here, two variables called x and y. And then you open up a pair of curly braces, and then within the curly braces is where your function actually does its magic. So what we have right now is a function called add two numbers, and it takes in two variables x and y. Presumably these are number variables. So what we want to do is we want to console.log x plus y. So we have created a function called add two numbers. It takes in two parameters, x and y, and it simply prints the sum of those numbers. So let's go ahead and run this, and you'll see that nothing actually happens. Nothing is getting printed. It's not console logging anything. And that's because we have not called the function. So the process of creating a function involves two main ideas. You have to first create the function, which we have done. And then two, you call the function. Calling a function is what tells JavaScript to jump inside of that function and run the code within it. So to call a function, you simply type the name of it with parameters. And here's an example of that. So we're just going to say add two numbers. And we're going to throw in our parameters, 3 and 9. These could be whatever you want. And now we can call it. Now it's called right here. And we can run it, and we get 12. So that's essentially how a function works on the most basic level. So go ahead and practice this a few times. I would rewrite this a few times just so you get the syntax down. This right here creates the function. And this right here calls the function. These are very distinct, important things. I guarantee you some of y'all will, and this happens to everyone, you will just make your function and you forget to call it, and you'll be like, well, why is the output not happening? You haven't called the function. You have to call the function. Because when you create a function, you're making a template. Think of it as a template. It's a template that can do something. You don't know exactly what it does until you actually plug numbers in. So we need to actually give it legitimate values to work with. Else you would just have JavaScript wouldn't know what to do. What is x and y? It doesn't know. That's why you have to call it, and you have to put in parameters. The parameters have to be thrown in for it to work. So let's go ahead and change our parameters. Let's do 300 plus 78, and you will get 378. And you can call functions multiple times with different parameters. So we can do add two numbers with 50 and 55, and it will print both 378 and 105 because we've called the function twice. So think of the function that's created as a template, and then it simply tells JavaScript, hey, here's roughly what I want to do. This right here is roughly what we want to do. We want to console.log x plus y. And when you call it, you say, hey, console.log 300 plus 78, console.log 50 plus 55. And you can do whatever you want inside of functions. You can do console.log function has been called. You can do that. You can do whatever you want within functions. The overall goal of functions is so that your code is, we call it modular, which means that every little piece is broken off into its own module of code. And this makes debugging easier because you can modify one piece of code without affecting another part of the code a mile away down in multiple other files. Because you haven't seen it yet, and it'll be a while before we get there, but you can, your code is eventually going to get huge. Like, once you get a job as a programmer, you will see files of code that are just thousands of lines long. So you want all of your code to be broken up into functions to help simplify the process of understanding what the code is doing. Like, you want to have logically named functions like add two numbers, and you also want it to be easier to debug the code. So that's the importance of functions. So let's get a little bit more into the intricacies of functions. What makes functions really special is that they can return values. So we could do z equals x plus y, and then we can return z. And what this will do is you can call the function, and essentially wherever you called the function, this line gets replaced by whatever z is. So, like, say we throw in, let's go ahead and run this, and nothing will happen. We haven't console logged anything. So what we want to do here is we want to console.log and then call the function from within console.log. So I know that looks like a little bit. Let me break it up. So within the console.log, we call the add two numbers function. It returns the sum of the numbers, so this gets replaced by that sum. So it'll print 10 now because we have returned the value and it's gone here. And you can do this in multiple ways. We can make var added nums equal to, and this is going to be a little mind-boggling, you can do 1 plus 1 plus, again, add two numbers, 3 and 3, and then we can console.log added num. And we get 8 back, because 1 plus 1 is 2, 3 plus 3 is 6, so this returns 2, this returns 6, and you add them together, you get 8. And that is extremely powerful. It is amazing. And functions can return more than just numbers. They can return strings, they can return more advanced data types. So we can make another function here that just says return hello. Actually, we'll name this function say hello. And it takes in a string that is your name. And then we're going to do return, good lord, return hello plus name plus exclamation point. That's it. So what we can do here is we can dynamically get your name. So we can say prompt, get back to that later. We can say prompt var name equals prompt. Let's just call this my name equals prompt. What's your name? So we'll get their name, and then we'll call the function say hello. And we'll toss in my name. So essentially, what we do is we get the user's name right here, and then we call the say hello function, and we throw in their name. So if they put Bob for this, it will call the function with Bob here, and then it will say return the string hello Bob exclamation point. So let's go ahead and run this. What's your name? Bob. Hello Bob. Run it again. What's your name? Johnny. I misspelled name apparently. Johnny. Hello Johnny. And that's it. So that's the beauty of functions, is that you can break up your code into certain little parts. You're going to want to, this is a little bit tough to wrap your mind around in the beginning, but you'll get used to it. The most challenging thing I would say is understanding how returning works. Functions don't have to return values, but they can. And when they do, basically, for a beginner's perspective, it essentially just replaces where you've called the function. If it does return, it replaces the function with the returned value. And that's the beauty of returning, is that you can do advanced thing. You can chain different functions together, and then all have them return different values depending on whatever you put in. So I might dedicate another video to this as well, just to do more practice with functions. But as long as you kind of understand what's going on here, you're good to go. If you're completely lost, then feel free to leave a comment about what's confusing you, and I'll answer when I get the chance. Although it should be pretty quick. I don't really have a life. Let's be honest here. So feel free to leave a comment below if you have any questions, and see y'all later.